O Canada, our home and native land. Our great country of Canada is home to about 35 million people. That's a lot. If you think about it just like your classroom, things can get pretty wild with just 30 kids, not to mention 35 million. So the government of Canada governs those 35 million people to make sure that everyone is able to live freely, and also to make sure that everyone follows the rules. The Canadian government is a special type of government called a federal constitutional monarchy. What's that? Well, let's take a look at what each of those three words mean on their own. First, we have the word federal. Federal just refers to a type of government that brings together a bunch of regions to form one united country. In Canada, we call these regions provinces and territories. The United States is also a federation. You can tell just by the name. It's a country of 50 states that are united. Canada is the same, except it's a country with 13 provinces and territories that are united. The country of Canada has its own laws that all of the people of Canada must follow. But a federation is special because even though all of the different provinces and territories are part of Canada, they have their own special laws that are unique to them as well. For example, while Canada doesn't have any specific laws about ladders, in Alberta, it's against the law to paint a wooden ladder. The reason behind this originally was that it might stop someone from seeing the condition of the wood. Weird, right? The next word to look at is constitutional. Canada is special because it has two types of constitutions, one called the Written Constitution and the other called the Working Constitution. The Written Constitution talks about the way that Canada's government operates and also talks about the civil rights of all Canadian citizens so that all Canadians are on the same page about what they are free to do. The Working Constitution includes the Written Constitution and also includes a whole bunch of customs and traditions that are not actually written down anywhere. These customs and traditions include things like the role of the Prime Minister and the function of the political parties, but we'll talk about those things in a minute. Now that we know what a constitution is, what's a constitutional monarchy? Monarchs aren't just a type of butterfly. Monarch actually means a royal head of state. In Canada, the head of state is the Queen of England, Elizabeth II. You'll recognize her face from the quarter or the $20 bill. Her job is mostly symbolic, and the power that she does have in the Canadian government, she rarely uses. Actually, she barely ever even comes to Canada. That's why she has someone who stays in Canada all the time to represent her. Here's when it gets a little bit complicated. Canadian government is split up into different branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. The legislative branch, which is also called Parliament, is made up of the Senate and the House of Commons. The Senate is responsible for making the final rulings on, and sometimes even coming up with, new laws. The Senate is made up of professionals over the age of 30, who are chosen by the Prime Minister. But the Prime Minister does not work in the Senate. The Prime Minister works in the House of Commons. The House of Commons is where most of the new laws are created before they are sent to the Senate for approval. All 308 of the people who work in the House of Commons are politicians who are chosen by the people of Canada in elections. The Senate and the House of Commons make up the legislative branch of government, responsible for creating new laws for the people of Canada. The next branch, the executive branch, actually works within the legislative branch that we just talked about. The executive branch is led by the Prime Minister. But before I really start talking about the executive branch, I should first tell you about political parties. A political party is an organization that represents a certain set of values and interests. Citizens of Canada who agree with the values and interests of a certain political party might support that party by voting for them in an election. You can think of the party system like your class representative elections here at school. In your grade at school, There are 3 classes, each with 30 students. During class rep election time, 3 different students might run to be the representative of your class. The 3 different students might try to get your vote by promising to work towards one goal or another. This is called a platform. Faisal is running on a platform trying to get more pizza days during the school year. Shuhan says she will focus on organizing a pajama day at school. Ruth intends to get a petting zoo for the end of school fair. Depending on which classmate's idea you like best, you will vote for them to be your representative. Now imagine that being done with 308 people to represent about 35 million. When there is an election, the people of Canada choose which party will represent their values and interests best. The election system in Canada is a little bit complicated and a story for another day, but by the end of the election, all 308 seats in the House of Commons are filled by representatives from different political parties. Some parties have more seats than others. Each one of these political parties has a leader, who the members of the party usually choose amongst themselves. The leader of the political party that won the most seats out of any other party during the election becomes the Prime Minister. Now that we know about the political parties, we can go back to talking about the executive branch. The executive branch in Canadian government is led by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister chooses a whole bunch of other members of Parliament to be in what's called their cabinet. The cabinet is mostly made up of members of Parliament called ministers, who are responsible for leading projects in specific ministries. The same way that there is a Ministry of Magic in Harry Potter, in Parliament there are ministries of education, health, agriculture, and many other things. The executive branch of government still works within the Parliament, but they are the ones who come up with the majority of the new laws for the House of Commons and the Senate to discuss and vote on. This means that the executive branch has a lot of responsibility to make sure that the new laws they suggest are representative of the people who voted them into Parliament. The third and final branch of Parliament is the judicial branch. The judicial system, like the election system, is a little bit too complicated for us to go into detail about today. But basically, what it does is try to understand the Constitution and laws of Canada and make sure that they are followed according to that understanding. We talked a bit before about how some laws in provinces and territories are different from laws that apply to all of Canada. In the same way, the judicial system has a court for all of Canada called the Supreme Court, and other courts for provinces, territories, and even cities. Wow. That was a lot to take in, but look at you. Now you know what a federal constitutional monarchy is. Let's see if we can remember it all together, right now. Canada is a country made up of 13 provinces and territories, making it a federation. This Canadian federation is governed by a constitution which outlines its laws and the way its government should function. Canada has the Queen of England as its monarch and head of state, who is represented in Canada by the Governor-General. The Governor-General is the head of Senate, where new laws are sent for approval and sometimes where they're even created. Those new laws are usually created in the House of Commons, where 308 of Canada's elected representatives work. The majority of the new laws are put forward by the Cabinet, which is led by the Prime Minister. All of these laws, both old and new, are interpreted and enforced by the courts of the judicial system. Wow, look at you go! Quiz your parents when you get home and see if they can remember all the different branches that go into Canadian government. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.